I thank everyone for being here with us for this meeting and discussion of the WellWaveNOW group, group of healthcare disruptors, but only disrupted in terms of providing better and more effective care and better outcomes. We don't look to disparage the traditional and conventional healthcare world, find great value in it, love to partner with them to make things done. We just like to provide complementary information and approaches in order to get that done. And always happy to be here with my esteemed colleagues as I get to learn so much from in our interactions. And that includes Dr. Bob Levine, who is a renowned brain researcher, also served as the director of the Center for Integrative Wellness over in Henry Ford's health system, has appeared on NBC, Bloom TV, and other things to talk about his expertise and bring that to bear. So we're glad to have him here with us with all his experience and knowledge, focus, and one of the primary areas of pain relief and pain minimization on that. Then I've got my colleague, Breck Rice, who it's always a pleasure to see, and good to see you again, Breck. Breck is a healthcare patient advocate and influencer with well over 100,000 followers out on TikTok. He also is the co-founder of ServeRx, which works to bring the right type of medicine and approaches to the workers' comp area and make sure and to help pharmacies thrive in that regard, the independent ones especially. But he's also moved on, added to that by being the chairman of Brim Health, which is providing holistic, integrative approaches to my cake is here, to providing community-based wellnesses through pharmacies and other entities. Breck is also an adjunct professor and also sits on the advisory board of a college as well. So he brings a lot of knowledge across a lot of aspects of the wealth world with us. And then our colleague Mike Hayes just joined us, so we're going to put him in the spotlight. Despite what everyone's message is, you got to have a good promoter. And Mike is our promoter. He worked with NBC Sports. He's had 2 Peabody Awards from journalism, as known as the interviewer of the stars. So he's good to be here with us. And those stars include people such as Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, and Kevin O'Leary. So it's a pleasure to have Mike with us and to help spread the word and get it out there. Lastly, I consider myself a Tim Daniels, a knowledgeable and skilled layperson. Now, this is my 17th year of focusing on the wellness world in a number of capacities. Ran a home care agency for the elderly to span 3 states. It really got me into helping people care, planning out care for people, delivering care across a wide range of entities of that nature. Also, then I really in that opportunity got to see people get better. That's a help people cope business. So then I went on a search for ways to help people get better. And one of the things I came across is a technology, is a lot of biotech, wellness technology, and become an expert in how that applies and can be used across a wide range of entities. So that's our panel. And today we're going to talk about how keys to living enjoying a pain-free life. And so to get into that, one of the things the group was talking about is people often look for a magic bullet when it comes to pain. As to, let me have this operation, take this pill, this one item and do it. And so we had a little discussion on the thinking and philosophy on that. So Breck or Dr. Bob, whoever wants to jump in first on that, what's kind of your thinking on this magic bullet philosophy that people, and I can understand why people look for it. There's been time in the past when I've looked for it myself, but what's your thinking when it comes to the magic bullet?
I've heard from a lot of ex-military that the VA hands out tramadol like Skittles. Mm-hmm. And that's the one medication, the one narcotic that really put me on the map with my social media outreach. I have over 3 million views on just that one topic alone of using. And what's interesting is it does benefit to some extent for some patients, but the 150 some odd negative side effects well outweigh the benefit that you're actually getting from that narcotic.
Yeah. You're on mute, Bob.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Tim and Breck. Well, the magic bullet. I saw a client today here in West Palm Beach area, and that client basically is not doing what, I'm asking them to do. And because my philosophy is, and I believe this, that inherently people need to become their own healers. They need to, their bodies and minds and spirit need to work together to solve their problems. And there is no real magic bullet for most conditions, especially chronic conditions. And so, and this gentleman really believes that he needs help. He's tried just about everything you can think of. And so he came to me to get help. And I'm telling him, look, you got to do what I ask you to do. If you don't do what I ask you to do, then why are we doing this? So it's because it costs him a lot of money. It takes up a lot of time. And so I'm always devising ways to help people comply with what they need to do to really help themselves. So people need to become their own healers. There's no magic bullet. Once in a while, you get a remarkable result. I've had some of those where in one session, I can unlock somebody's automatic pattern for some condition, whether it's chronic pain or sleep disturbance, anxiety, stress. But that's not reproducible. Doesn't happen all the time. Those stories are just, they happen, and it's wonderful when they happen, but they don't happen that much.
Right. Now, I know last week we talked about a little bit of you folks talk a little bit about, I unfortunately was not able to be with you last week, talk a little bit about that automatic pattern. But for listeners this time, Bob, if you would refresh or explain a little bit on what is the automatic patterns that people fall into, how that plays in the pain, and how you utilize that to work your magic bullet.
So I always wondered why these great practitioners that I worked with in the alternative arena and in the conventional arena, whether it's physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, deep tissue manipulation, I always wondered, why is it that people go to see them and feel better and then come out of the treatment feeling better and then go back into their lives? And in some short interval, whether it's hours or a day or two, they feel just like they did before because they're in some chronic automatic pattern that they don't realize that they have. And so I started studying, like, what are these automatic patterns that people have? So just to give you an example, the average person takes between 30,000 and 50,000 repetitive movements every day. So they're dysfunctional. Many of those movement patterns are done in a dysfunctional way by most people. For instance, walking, sitting and standing, bending and reaching. Those are just a few of the components. And walking is a big deal because that's anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 steps a day. And most people are walking improperly. So that's why I teach people how to walk properly. But we have to teach people how to move appropriately in three-dimensional space, which helps a lot. Because if somebody has a bunch of dysfunctional movement patterns, these automatic movement patterns, then they're going to leave the practitioner's office and they're going to be back into those dysfunctional patterns. And then all of the good work that was done with that person is dissolved, is counteracted. So automatic patterns reside in the subconscious mind. If they were in the conscious mind, we'd know we had a pattern and we'd say, oh, we have to interrupt that. So that's why I developed the automatic pattern recognition and interruption system, which helps people recognize these automatic patterns that have resided in the subconscious mind, and then how to interrupt them, specifically how to interrupt them so people are free to make changes. And so that's been basically my life's work for several decades now.
Very great. And so, I kind of take that automatic pattern recognition and intervention as looking at a root cause type of thing. And so to me, that's one of the things that you have to do to effectively address and to get at the root, is identify a root cause. So, Breck, the drug you mentioned that kind of put you on the map out there in social media with the 3,000 views, do you see that? Did it address the root cause of pain in any instances?
No, it's just a pain blocker, right? It tricks the brain to think you're not in pain.
Beautiful. And that's what, so, Bob, you've got the pattern recognition, the visualization we'll get into, and other things that are part of your integrated philosophy. I think, Breck and I also often look at other components of the integrated approach to pain, which, and Breck, I know you've talked about, about diet. And so I'd like to have your comments on, how you see diet playing into pain management. yeah, one of the things I often emphasize is the right exercise. And I know you've got in some aspect you've got that component too, Dr. Bob, and in terms of so with us talk a little bit about that. But I often find, yeah, even for myself at one point, being an old collegiate wrestler with some ripped up knees and things of that nature, as I started applying stretch, and as those deteriorated over time, when I started applying certain stretching to that, I was even amazed myself how just a simple act of the right stretching really played into relief of some of that knee pain. But I also do for that, I also found, at times I used to do recumbent bike riding, but even as that put certain stretch on the joint at a certain time, went in swimming. And so swimming has a different impact on it, and the resistance training. So I combine, just for myself, swimming, resistance training, stretching, all those things, and that's been a tremendous help to me. And as I worked with them, that's some of the key to that also came to me when in caring for the elderly. When I saw physical therapy do X amount for them, I do occupational therapy do X amount for them. But when you combine some true exercise to it and some other things to it, I saw a lot of changes happening in a lot of people of that. But Breck, your thoughts as well?
Yeah, you touched on like 7 of my 8 key things.
I let AI plan my week, and I have 0.
I'm not sure where that's coming
I'm not sure
from.
where that came from. No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Mike,
so
please.
we've touched on the, at least 7 of my 8, and the first being proper posture and your body mechanics, which Bob has already talked about. The regular exercise and the stretching, that's so key, right? As we get older, common activities like just getting up from the floor, you need to do that over and over and over again, or it's going to get harder and harder to get up from the floor. So the regular exercise and stretching, we really haven't gotten into the stress management piece of this, but healthy diet, you already talked about. There's so many foods that are inflammatory that we eat, especially here in the US, because we love our snacks. And man, inflammation is like the smoke detector, right? That's where saying, hey, there's a fire going on here. Well, that's what inflammation is that smoke detector for the body.
Right. And as part of that part of the pain, driving the pain can be inflammation in the body. So when you can, aside from, some people will think that chronic inflammation can lead to a lot of other diseases, but inflammation can lead to wear on the joints and things of that nature and other things. So getting that inflammation down and managing that correctly can be a big boon to pain management.
Yeah. Breck brought up the point about stress.
Stress.
And, I always say that you can't get anybody easily out of chronic pain until you, at the same time, help them relieve their stress, because the stress response is the automatic pattern of stress response causes intense neuromuscular contraction that people don't even realize is happening. And those muscles are burning energy. They're causing fatigue. They're causing postural misalignments because you can have differential muscle contraction. And so there's so many ways in which people's stress can interfere with recovering from chronic pain. So de-stressing is really essential. And that's why I use a lot of guided meditation audio tracks to help people learn how to breathe, learn how to future vision for, which I've talked about in the past, future vision for becoming pain-free, becoming stress-free, and how to do that is really, really vital. So
what goes hand in hand with that, Dr. Bob, is the mindset, right? The attitude. Somebody has an attitude that, man, this is a really crummy day and I'm in a lot of pain and it's just going to be another painful, crummy day. Well, guess what? You're going to have a painful, crummy day.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I call a corrupt future vision. The true future vision is I'm going to get out of pain really fast, and it's going to be happening anytime now. And the next thing I try and do is going to make all the difference in the world, and I'll be pain free. And people have to think that. I always say that it's important to want to be pain free, which almost everybody does. It's really important to believe that you can be pain free, which that's where people falter, because they really don't believe it. They've tried so many things, and so they think there's nothing that really can help them. They just want to manage it. And then you got to know, want, believe, and know. You got to know that the next thing you're going to do is going to work, even if you don't know how it's going to work. It's going to work. So want, believe, and know.
So Tim, as a healthcare technologist, you know, on my list of eight is the magic number seven is complementary therapies. And I know you are a big proponent of PEMF, and I can tell you I have had some amazing experiences in using PEMF. What's been your coaching and training around that complementary therapy?
Sure. And so for the audience there, and the audience, I'd like to remind you, I actually point out to you, if you have some questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll try to either address them as we go along, or let's save some time at the end here to address them as well. But for those who are not familiar with the term PEMF, acronym stands for Pulse Electromagnetic Field Therapy. And often, I remember when I've approached, I like to put it in the hands of a lot of conventional health providers. And the first couple of ones I talked to, they said, this sounds like snake oil to me. But I said, you really have to look, when you look at the science and when you look at the studies. And when they did, it was very surprising to them. Because that technology was first approved back in the late 70s. Best of my knowledge, after I know work by a guy named Dr. Andrew Bassett. And where he looked at PEMF, which is pulse electromagnetic field therapy, and looking at how it affected the speeding of bones that weren't responding to other types of therapy. And so I've seen and seen personally, and then studies. Personally, I've seen in one last case I saw there where a woman had broken her fifth metatarsal bone in the foot. And for 8 weeks, it was causing her pain and not been healing. And she used PEMF for 4 weeks, went back to the surgeon she'd been scheduled with. And she was able to, show, it was shown by x-ray and by manipulation that was completely healed. But so it's got a lot of applications, a lot of studies. You can find many of them up on PubMed.gov, which is a gold standard for studies, double-blind, placebo-controlled, peer review. But as far as when it comes to the world of pain management, it helps in a number of different ways. One, it starts to, it starts to work to address the pain as a root cause, because you're opening up blood flow, and often some are optimizing, open up to at the capillary level, which is the last mile of the cells. So now you're delivering more oxygen to the cells and better nutrients. Better cells lead to better tissues, lead to better organs. So often that will help do things. It also is very good in inflammation management, as we talked about, speeding people through the inflammation process when it's acute, when it's chronic, helping to mitigate it, minimize it, get it out. It kicks off repair proteins in the body, heat shock protein number 70, for speeding the repair of tissues. And as I've used it, it's broken up muscle knots, it's broken up scar tissue where I've had knee operations. And so all that helps with range of motion, mobility, and pain. So to me, it's whether one, and you triangulate on this, and I encourage people to look at it, whether it's by science, whether it's by studies, whether it's by testimonies, one can see that it really does have a wide-ranging impact, and can play a role across a wide numbers and types of pain that people sustain. For example, oncologists use it to help for a number of reasons, from pain and things of that nature. But it's used everywhere from oncologists to chiropractors to podiatrists around the world. If you got me started, you get me started on this, so I'm going to stop myself, Breck. Because
well, I'm going to ask a question about that, because you've covered a lot in pain management. What about neuropathy? So nerve damage. Is there any evidence that it will actually repair nerve paths?
Absolutely, and that's where it gets the complete mechanism of actions. I don't know if we know. That's part of the reason some people kind of see it as a magical thing. They say, what are the mechanisms of actions completely in PEMF that doctors look for? But many of them are, like I said, are FDA cleared devices and one at a 2 level, saying not only reasonably safe but also proven efficacy. And one can go out and look at the neuropathy. And I've also have seen it personally in a number of cases, and seen it through some physicians I replied to. And yes, it can help with neuropathy. And it gets back at that point where you're really getting the help with inflammation, but it also helps at the cellular level. So over time, don't know if I completely remember how long it takes our bodies to replace itself at the cellular level. But when you start building better cells, they go to better tissues, better tissues, and And parts of the body include nerves, and so you can indeed have an impact on it. But sometimes I've seen it have that impact over months to help with neuropathy. But I've also seen it sometimes where I've seen it with there's chemo-based neuropathy, statin-based neuropathy, diabetic-based neuropathy. Sometimes I have seen it bring very, very fast relief to people in a couple of different uses. So it helps both on the short term and trying to work as best it can to address the root cause, which we always like to get to. Okay. And now, Bob, don't hide your uses of PEMF too. We know how scientific and good you are, but you're a PEMF user too.
Yeah. I had a really great result with the pulse electromagnetic field therapy, the Beamer mat in particular, in my case. And I had nothing that I was obviously working on, but I wanted to get it because I consider, when I studied what it does, I consider it one of the ultimate longevity devices because, to increase microcirculation, oxygenation of tissues, removal of toxins, getting the blood flowing well. I thought this is a really good thing. But one of the symptoms that I had for about 10 years was that when I would lay down at night to go to sleep, I would exhale and hear a wheezing and feel a vibration in my chest. When I stood up, no problem. When I exercised, no problem. It's just when I laid down to go to sleep. So I talked to a lot of physicians about that. My physician friend said, hey, everybody's got a little bit of that. You're all right. And I'm thinking to myself, nah, this doesn't sound right to me. Am I really all right? So, but anyway, I got the Beamer. I'd lay down it twice a day, 8 minutes in the morning, 8 minutes in the evening, like they recommend. And 2 months later, I was just laying in bed and I was breathing and I was noticing no more vibration. So I was trying to recreate it, like laying down, no vibration. I'm sure that the Beamer helped take out the inflammation, the excess fluid that was in the lungs, and beautiful result. I was so happy about that and very unexpected.
Right.
Yeah. What Dr. Bob is referring to is a bioelectromagnetic energy regulator, which is PEMF, one of the class 2 devices, and one that class 2 is important to us in our clinics, right? Because we're billing insurance, and so you need that FDA class 2 NGX approval in order to bill insurance for those sessions.
Right. And then there was a question that I missed earlier, talked about in regard to it, that said, how can you tell if we have excess excess or inflammation in the body? Sometimes it's a pain in certain areas. Sometimes you can see it in terms of the swelling and the size of it. Thirdly, there's also a couple of tests that I like to recommend people take themselves. It's called the test for C-reactive protein, which is a measure of inflammation in the body. You can have the C-reactive protein taken. You often have to ask for it if you're going for your physical or things of that nature. It's not necessarily always put on there, but I ask for it, and I ask for both two types. One is the C-reactive protein that measures just total body, but there's also one that's heart specific, so you can see if there's inflammation right around, from a cardiac standpoint. And so I ask for those two and take a look at that each year as well from that standpoint.
Yeah.
What about edema in the feet? Is that an inflammation problem, or is that what do you make of that when people have swollen feet?
Yeah, and I'd say I think yes, but short answer, I see it as that way. But Bob, there's often I've often found that in Bob's good questions, there's often a thought or a knowledge behind it. So what's your particular take on that?
No, I'm just curious about it myself.
Yeah.
Obviously, a buildup of excess fluids,
Sure.
right? And so, that's coming from somewhere. It's an alarm system saying that there's something else going on, whether it's, renal issues or something else.
Okay.
Well, that's why I like to teach proper walking, because in proper walking, you get the calf pump, and the calf pump pumps the blood back to the heart effectively, and that can carry away a lot of fluid too.
Yeah, so thanks for that your thought, Breck, there, because I think I agree to supplement what you're saying with Breck said. Yes, edema can be seen as inflammation, but also what's the particular cause of it? Is it the injury? Is it a breakdown in the cardiovascular system we're talking to can lead to edema in certain places? Absolutely. So yes, it's but what's the cause? What's the underlying cause of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we are at the half-hour mark, which we could talk about just the PEMF subject for hours and hours on end. And but we want to be mindful of and respectful for everyone's time today. And great discussion, though. And I know, you know, there's been so many personal stories that I've experienced on PEMF. We may want to just do a whole session just around that one complementary therapy at some point.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And so in talking about what we've covered today, though, again, so what we encourage people, if I were to summarize a little bit, is, you know, the magic bullet. And I think our promoter, Mike, actually talked about this a little bit, and it plays into it. And that is that the magic bullet is really yourself and your self-care, and it's understanding that you really need an integrated approach and finding the integrated approach that really works. And that ranges from what Dr. Bob talked about, you know, visualization to automatic pattern recognition and interruption and handling that, to the stress management, to the things you talk about, you know, right medication, the right diet. We talk about the right exercise, as well as the PEMF technology as a foundation and to help in that. PEMF can really work to make, I like to think the foundation can make everything you do right better. And that's why we can talk to it. It can help with the stress, and it can feed back in the stress. If you're eating right, it can deliver the nutrients better, et cetera, et cetera. If you're exercising, it can help you recover from exercise, reduce the soreness of it, give you the energy to exercise. So it's a nice complement to work into that. But that's, you know, as I find with most things, it'd be great if you could have the one element that would work it all and make it happen for you. But it's the integrative approach and working that integrative approach and managing yourself with support from your practitioners and help team to make it happen for yourself.
I would like to just say one more comment, because the subject of stress and nutrition have come up. And while both are really important, my philosophy is that somebody who has the best diet in the world and experiences an enormous amount of stress is not going to live as long as somebody who has the worst diet in the world and is totally free of all stress. So the stress is really critical to interrupt those automatic stress reactive patterns.
Absolutely. And
real quick before we get to Mike, in the chat, if everyone knows how to get to the chat, I just spammed it with a free gift that I want to give everyone. And this is
oh, look at that.
how to live an extra decade.
Right.
So this is a free health risk assessment. If you can check all of the boxes appropriately, could literally add 8 to 10 years to your life. If you can't check all the boxes appropriately, you may need to reach out to one of us.
That's good. Beautiful. I love that offer, Breck. And then right before we get to Mike as well, just to comment on to add to Dr. Bob's talk on stress. Yeah, so what people don't often realize, and sometimes, you know, I work with a lot of retired professional athletes, helping them with their health and their well-being, their wellness management, as they like to call it. And a lot of them think they should be able to shrug it off. I handled stress before, but what they don't realize is different type. And that also the stress can produce very damaging things to you mentally, as well as very damaging things to you physically. It can cause the hypertension, for example, which can lead to strokes. It can lead to overproduction of things like adrenaline and cortisol, which in small amounts are good, but in larger amounts are also detrimental to the body with that. So I think that kind of wraps us up. But Mike, you used to.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Tim. The reason I mentioned that the magic bullet, I believe, is your personal responsibility is this. Decades ago, I promoted a book for a doctor called Off the Pedestal. And it made so much sense to me because he was saying, look, folks, we want a healing partnership with you. We don't want you to put us up on the pedestal like we have all the answers and we're just going to be this magic bullet that absolutely cures you. And so I started thinking about, and I've really thought about that for decades, and I've always focused on taking personal responsibility for my own health. And I guess we are going to do a series for the next few weeks on taking personal responsibility. Now, a quick story. I was taking personal responsibility during the meeting from some advice that I got from Breck, who said, well, check on the side effects of this new nasal spray that I got from the Mayo Clinic. So during the meeting, I thought, okay, well, I'll take a look at the Mayo Clinic. And when I went to go check, it made a noise that disrupted the meeting. So I apologize for that. But I was doing something to take responsibility for my own health. And I think that is something that we want to encourage people to, and we want to teach them where to go and how to do it, because a lot of people just don't know. So that's what we're here for, especially if you have a particular need. Please tell us about that so we can look for sources. Research. We do networking. We'd love to look for resources that can help you, in addition to whoever you're working with, take some personal responsibility for your health and wellness. Thank you.
Very
Thank
good,
you,
Mike.
Mike.
Very good.
So,
There's
all
a
right.
question that I want to discuss later on another show, and that is the side effects from pharmaceuticals. Because when you read, there's not a pharmaceutical that you can read about that doesn't have enormous numbers of side effects. And I'm wondering, it's a real detriment to people. So it'd be really nice to have some statistics on, you can experience this, you can experience that, you can die. But I mean, what's the percentage of all those things? Maybe it's 0.001%, and then but that would mean that you're unlikely to experience the side effects. It's just something I'm thinking about as we're talking.
Yeah, I think we should now play. That's really diving into the Breck's world quite a bit. So I know Breck will have a lot to
Scary drug facts.
release on that. But I guess as as I've gotten older here in that regard, I've actually started taking a closer look at those potential side effects and what to watch for, as my a team of healthcare professionals that I work with provide things and recommend it to my wife as well. So it was back in December, I was taking a course of antibiotics, and I really went and took a look at those side effects, and my wife getting some antibiotics well at the time. Not related. We didn't spread it to each other. Just it's a coincidence. But you looked at that, and it talked about even with antibiotics, which I believe in wholeheartedly, and some people believe that there's mushrooms, but and mushrooms do help in a lot of different areas, but some things they can't really address. But that showed that it could lead to tendon damage, and that tendon damage could happen. It could start anywhere from a week or two into it to 6 months later. You could happen into it, and there was a whole kind of world of things. You said, "Wow, can this can happen just from antibiotics, let alone some other things."
I know somebody who experienced that, and it was devastating for them because they were a great athlete. They had no issues whatsoever, and then after that, they were just their joints were all messed up. It was crazy.
Yep.
So when it happens, right?
Absolutely.
I end most of my little episodes on scary drug facts that when the side effects outweigh the benefits, it's time to do something different.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. All right.